Alright, let's find the slope of the graph of this function y equals 7x over x minus 1 at the point 214, and then we want to find an equation for the line tangent to the graph at that point. So to find the slope, I'm going to take this limit. Where I see an x, I'm going to plug in x plus h. X plus h. And then where I see an x, I'm going to plug in an x. And of course all of this is over h. Now, this is where I said it doesn't matter. You could either plug in x's now, or you can wait till the end, because regardless, eventually you're going to have to plug it in. But let's go ahead and just plug in. We know what x equals, so our limit as h goes to 0 of 7 times 2 plus h over 2 plus h minus 1. And if you remember in class, I said that this is y, because if I plug in 2, I'm going to get 14 over 1, which is 14, and that's my y value. So I don't have to do a whole bunch of fancy stuff. I can just put minus 14 and then all over h. So now I need to play around with this thing so I can get where I can finally plug in as h is approaching 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a common denominator in this numerator piece, and I'll do that by, the common denominator of course is the 2 plus h minus 1. Well, why not go ahead, why leave it like that? Because 2 plus h minus 1, well 2 minus 1 is 1, right? So that's 1 plus h. So in other words, this piece right here becomes 1 plus h, and that's going to be my common denominator. So I'm going to have 7 over 2 plus h over 1 plus h minus 14. Well, this needs the 1 plus h. 1 plus h. So in other words, that's what's missing for my common denominator, and then all over h. Alright, so the limit as h goes to 0, I can multiply or distribute this 7. So I get 14 plus 7h. And let's go ahead and distribute over here. So I'm going to get minus 14 minus 14h. So all I did is I took 14 times 1, which is 14, but don't forget the negative sign. 14 times h, which is 14h, but don't forget the negative sign. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry my denominator to the bottom. So the bottom's going to become h times 1 plus h. So nicely that happens. So I have the limit as h approaches 0. Well, let's just go ahead and combine like terms. So I'm going to have negative 7h, because 7h minus 14h. And then on the bottom. And now as you can see, I can cancel the h. So I have the limit as h goes to 0 of negative 7 over 1 plus h. And if I let h go to 0, then I get my slope of negative 7. Alright, so that's the first part of this problem. There's two parts of it because it wants now the equation for the tangent line at that point, 214. So we're going to use that y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And way back up here somewhere was our point, 214. So I'm going to use that down here. So I plug in y minus 14. We just found the slope was negative 7. And then my x is 2. So I just kind of make things look a little better, solve this for y. So I'm going to get negative 7x plus 14. Add 14 to both sides. And I get my equation as negative 7x plus 28.